Now on ITV later than some listings, the ITV News.
Theresa May prepares to launch a raft of new proposals aimed at winning back the younger vote. But as she tries to wrestle the initiative from Labour, Boris Johnson creates more waves over Brexit. Also on the programme, Spain divided and tension mounts ahead of tomorrow's independence referendum. And the teenager with the best seats in the House, next to a prince and a president.
This is ITV News with Jonathan Hill.
Good evening. Theresa May is preparing to seize the initiative and take the fight for younger votes directly to Labour. At the Tory party conference, which opens in Manchester tomorrow, she'll announce a raft of measures aimed at wooing back the under-40s, many of which Jeremy Corbyn convinced to vote for him in the general election. More on that in a moment. But first, she and the party have been tackling another intervention from Boris Johnson over Brexit. From Manchester, our political correspondent Paul Brand reports.
Is the Foreign Secretary stealing your limelight, Prime Minister?
She might be keeping quiet. Her problem, once again, is he's not. The Prime Minister arrived in Manchester this evening for a conference that's supposed to repair this party after the election. But as they set up, a familiar face seems to be making his own preparations. Yet again, it looks like Boris Johnson would like to hang his portrait in Downing Street, overshadowing the hall with more of his views on Brexit. This time he told the Sun newspaper that when it comes to a transitional period, am I impatient about it? Do I want to get it done as fast as possible? Yes, absolutely. Do I want the delay to go on longer than 2 years? Not a second more. Just one of several additions he's made to this speech by the Prime Minister in Florence last week, as she prepares another one for Conservative conference.
I think it's extremely helpful, the Foreign Secretary. It's far from undermining the government or the country. It's actually sticking up for the country, because what we want our government to do is to be confident, friendly, positive, but also to be firm.
But this is the second time this month Boris Johnson's had to deny he's on manoeuvres.
I mean, what you have is a government working together to deliver a glorious Brexit. That's what we're going to do.
Are you as one? Are the two of you as one now?
Nest of singing birds.
But you're not.
They weren't all chirping admiration for him today, though. The Conservative Scottish leader, Ruth Davidson, sniping that Brexit should be led by serious people, even if others put on a pretence of unity.
What I want from the Brexit talks and what Boris Johnson wants from the Brexit talks, and indeed all of us around the cabinet table want, is the best possible deal for Britain that secures our future outside the European Union.
Brexit man!
The unrest's not just inside the conference hall. Tomorrow this anti-Brexit protest is expected to grow to thousands. And whether waved on flags, all paraded around the party, the danger for the Prime Minister is she's not the only star on show here.
So, Paul, what is Theresa May going to promise younger voters tomorrow?
Well, John, a bit like the Bank of Mum and Dad, she'll promise to bail them out of their two biggest financial worries. One, paying off their tuition fees, and two, being able to afford a home if there's anything left over. On tuition fees, she's promising a freeze that a rise next year won't go ahead, and that you'll have to earn £25,000 before you start paying them back. At the moment, it's £21,000. And on homes, she's promising an extra £10 billion for the Help to Buy scheme, which should, according to the Conservatives, help an extra 135,000 people get on that property ladder. Clearly, this is an attempt to persuade younger voters to come back to the Tories after they voted Labour at the general election. But when the opposition is promising to, for example, scrap fees altogether, I think the risk for the Conservatives is that they still look like the stingier parent.
Paul Brand in Manchester, thanks very much indeed. Spain tonight appears to be on the brink of a deep division. Tomorrow, Catalonia is determined to go ahead with an illegal independence referendum. But the government in Madrid has ordered the police to raid polling stations, many of them schools, and stop people casting their votes. From Barcelona, Emma Murphy reports.
Those who seek independence have seized the narrative in Catalonia. Today, those who believe in unity seize the streets. As they marched against tomorrow's referendum, the government in Madrid did all it could to stop it, seizing ballot papers, shutting down electronic voting systems, and claiming that the vote itself would be impossible. With 24 hours to go, this was meant to be a day of reflection. It became one of tension, as pro-Madrid nationalists rallied outside the offices of the pro-independence Catalonian government. The ferocity of division here was laid bare. A lone champion of independence dared to call for the right to vote. In the end, surrounded by a baying crowd, police were forced to bundle him into a government building.
This rally demonstrates just how divided Catalonians are. For these people, there will be no vote tomorrow. They don't recognise it and they won't take part. But the fact that it is going ahead is seen as a real threat to their society.
Many opposed to the referendum want the Catalonian government replaced, but that will not heal the division here.
I lost some friends because of these things. Some families are divided because of these things. So yes, it's a problem here.
Many schools will be used as voting stations. The police have orders to close them down by 6 a.m. tomorrow. So those who believe in this vote are occupying them. But this is an illegal referendum and they are breaking the law, however creative their ways to avoid arrest.
So we are actually celebrating the beginning of autumn.
So this has got nothing to do with the referendum?
All it has to do with the referendum is the fact that both events will take place at the same time.
In the final hours, the government are working to ensure there will be no vote at all. Emma Murphy, ITV News, Barcelona.
The supermarket chain Sainsbury's has decided not to take any more deliveries from the factory at the centre of serious concerns over food hygiene and labelling. Sainsbury's joins Marks & Spencer, Aldi and Lidl, who have all acted after an investigation by ITV News and The Guardian into the Two Sisters plant in West Bromwich. Sainsbury's said while they investigate the allegations, they have stopped taking any products from the site. And you can read more about the story and see reports from our investigation online. Go to itv.com/news. Now, he's only been in the job a short time, but today the new Chief Inspector for Hospitals in England described the NHS as unfit for the 21st century. Professor Ted Baker said the health service has failed to prepare for the growing number of elderly people needing treatment, forcing many onto trolleys in corridors. The situation, he says, is unacceptable. Sue Saville has more.
At a rally against cuts to parts of the NHS, the shortage of beds was a key complaint. Eve Acorn took to a makeshift hospital bed. Her 79-year-old husband Fred was left on a trolley after waiting in A&E to see a doctor.
He basically couldn't find a bed for me, so I was put on a trolley and I was stuck in a small room which was an operating theatre, and I stayed on that trolley for hours.
The new Chief Inspector for Hospitals, Professor Ted Baker, said, "One of the things I regret is that 15 or 20 years ago, when we could see the change in the population, the NHS did not change its model of care. It should have done it then. There was a lot more money coming in, but we didn't spend it all on the right things." The right things now would be more beds to ease pressure on A&E, says this expert.
The main problem is, in fact, that we have seriously ill patients in resus areas of the A&E departments, and of course many patients, particularly elderly patients, who are on trolleys waiting to be admitted to the hospitals, for which frequently there are absolutely insufficient beds for them to be put in. We have one of the lowest beds for our population of any Western European country. It really is, frankly, unacceptable that this should be allowed to continue.
Next month, the Care Quality Commission will report on health and care services and is expected to highlight the shortage of beds and staff as key problems. Sue Saville, ITV News.
Now, when you're asked not to put your hand into a lion cage, most people do as they are told. Most people, that is. But as Richard Pallow reports, not everyone. What happened next is dramatic, but thankfully no one was seriously injured.
On a visit to a South African game park, rugby player Scott Baldwin gingerly, but repeatedly, puts his hands through the bars of a lion enclosure. Other teammates do the same, but Baldwin then tries stroking one of them directly on its head.
Bye-bye. All right. Quentin? Yes. I'll just take him quickly for first aid.
Astonishingly, the injury to his hand required only a few stitches.
It's pretty stupid on Scott's behalf, and he's pretty lucky and told how far back to stand. But yeah, I don't know what sort of wildlife programme Scott has been watching where you can pat a lion on the head as if it's a kitten.
Baldwin is a Welsh international hooker who was in Bloemfontein with his club side, the Ospreys, and should have been playing in last night's Pro 14 fixture. Ironically, perhaps, that game that they lost was against the Cheetahs. The tussle lost against the Lions will live far longer in the memory, though. Richard Pallo, ITV News.
And finally, at the Invictus Games in Canada, one lucky teenager managed to get the best seats in the arena purely by chance. And as our royal editor Chris Shipp reports from Toronto, Hayley Stover ended up with a very special night to remember.
For anyone who'd come to the wheelchair basketball hoping to see a famous face, they got more than they bargained for. This time, not just Prince Harry at the Invictus Games, but Barack Obama. They had a lot to talk about the game for sure, but the former president did ask the Prince about his relationship with his actress girlfriend Meghan Markle. But last night there was a different girl who became the envy of Prince Harry's fans the world over, because 18-year-old Hayley Stover somehow managed to get herself the best seats in the house.
You were sitting next to Prince Harry and Barack Obama.
Yeah.
How on earth did that happen?
Yeah, good day. Yeah, it was just crazy and they were awesome.
Your dad was telling me that on the way down in the car you were saying, I wonder if we're going to meet anyone famous today.
Yeah, because I was just talking to somebody back home. They're like, make sure you say hi to Prince Harry today. And I was like, yeah, for sure.
Hayley had come to watch USA versus France with her parents. They were sitting on the opposite side of the court, and when she pointed them out to the Prince, Hayley got them their own royal wave.
Hayley said, hey, I'd love to go over and sit over closer in case I get a chance to sit by him. I said, I'll go over with you. So she went right down to the front row, and I stayed back about 5 rows.
The Prince came alone to both the basketball and the swimming. Ms Markle was not with him. She is, however, expected at the game's closing ceremony later tonight. But it meant, for one evening at least, Hayley could say she was Harry's girl. Chris Shipp, ITV News, Toronto.
Quite a night. I wonder if she had a selfie. That's it. The national weather is next, but for me and the whole weekend team, thanks for watching. Good night.